you have Gisu Cooperative Union, we have opportunities. If you don't go to the bank, you go to UDB, Uganda Development Corporation. I also would like to, I think time is now up, I would like to tell you, let's go to Soroti. The Soroti Fruit Growers, the Soroti Fruit Growers Cooperative Society formed their society, and the government brought in a partnership. We initiated the Soroti Fruit Factory. The Soroti Fruit Factory is partially for the government and partially for the cooperators.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all most welcome to this function, the 100th International Day of Cooperatives, also the 28th UN Cooperative Day. We are live at Lakeview Hotel, Mbarara, and we are happy and blessed to be joined by distinguished, unfortunately, only gentlemen. We have the Honourable Minister of State for Cooperatives, Honourable Gumengovi Frederick, MP. We have the Professor of Economics, Professor Ephraim Kamuntu. Thank you. Before us also we have Major General Sam Kavuma, Deputy Chief Coordinator, Operation Wealth Creation, also Chairman of Wazalendo Sacco. We have the Chairman of the Apex Organization of Cooperatives, which is Uganda Cooperative Alliance, Mr. Jonas Treyambe. On the podium also is the representative of the Executive Director, the Microfinance Support Center. Thank you, everybody. We'd like to thank the sponsors of this function today, this symposium, Stanbic Bank, and the Microfinance Support Center. So without wasting a lot of time, I would now like to request the first presenter, Mr. James Muhwezi, to present on the topic, the role of Emyooga program in financial inclusion, opportunities and impact on the informal sector. Mr. James Muhwezi, thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, our honorable ministers, all protocol observed. In the interest of time, I recognize protocol like that. Greetings from the Microfinance Support Center. Greetings from the Executive Director who was supposed to have been here, but he's engaged somewhere else, critical, and other members of the senior management team at the Microfinance Support Center. We are happy to be associated with this event, and we are also happy to announce to you that we are co-sponsors of the program because of the value that we attach since 2001 when we were registered. And so it is a pleasure for me to be presenting to you our flagship program, the Emyooga program, which was launched in 2019. I would like to go through my presentation quickly, and that is a short outline. I want to discuss briefly to you the mandate of MSC. MSC is the short form for the Microfinance Support Center. I would like to present the presidential initiative on job and wealth creation, commonly known as Emyooga. But the key words there that I want to highlight is job and wealth creation. And I will be giving you figures and facts of what we have been able to put on ground so far in terms of impact. Then I will discuss the monetization of the informal sector through this flagship program, which is the Emyooga program. And then I will conclude with highlighting a few emerging issues and what we are doing with our stakeholders to address these issues. All partners in this room, the agencies, heads of agencies that are here, we recognize you as our partners. I see UMRA, the Ministry of Trade, of course, which has been key in registering our circles, and the commercial officers, the community development officers, and the rest. So I will start off by telling you about MSC briefly. What is MSC and what is our mandate? In March, on March 29th, we celebrated 20 years of existence. Having been registered in 2001, we celebrated our 20 years. But Microfinance Support Center, interestingly, goes beyond. Our rich history goes beyond the 20 years. We started with Poverty Alleviation Project, which is commonly known as PAP, in 1994, when the government of Uganda, in the spirit of fighting poverty among Ugandans, approached the African Development Bank for support, for resources to implement a savings and credit program which would be initiated by the bottom-up approach that our colleague from the UCA talked about. And that's what happened. Communities were approached, they gave their needs, but the bottom line was fighting poverty, and then a 5-year program called Poverty Alleviation Plan was implemented. This was one of the best programs that were implemented that emphasized savings and credit platforms for rural communities. And as I'm going to present to you, that's what you will see, that we have moved with that thread up to the present-day Emyooga program. This program ended in 1998 because it was a 5-year program, but because the objectives for which it was started had not yet been fully accomplished, the government again approached the African Development Bank for more resources, and then we implemented the Rural Microfinance Support Program, which was also a 5-year program. Interestingly, in that program, it had 3 pillars. The first pillar was continue and scale up the platforms for savings and credit for Ugandans. Whereas the PAP, the initial PAP, did not emphasize the training and capacity building, now it was emphasized in Rural Microfinance Support Program. So training and capacity building was highly emphasized. And then the last component of that program was establishment of the Microfinance Support Center. That was 1998. But before I even go any further, the president has been key in coming up with programs that help fight poverty among Ugandans, especially the rural poor communities. So in 1995, you recall very well, we had the Prosperity for All program, which had 4 pillars again. The first pillar was the pillar of production. The second pillar was the pillar of value addition, which we are talking about now. How do we add value to our produce? The third pillar, it was the pillar of information system. You are a farmer on the farm. So you need to know where the inputs are availed, where you can get inputs from, at what price. You need to know where to take your produce, which markets offer the best price. You need to know where to get extension support services. All this is about information that somebody on the farm needs to be able to effectively produce. But the last component, which is interesting, that reinforces the establishment of MSC in that program, was the financial services program. So in 2001, ladies and gentlemen, MSC was started, and the mandate that we were given was the mandate of extending affordable credit to Ugandans. Those Ugandans that could not be able to easily access credit from other existing private commercial lenders. That is why we were established. But you can ask yourself what makes us different from the other lenders. What makes us different is that MSC does not just give credit, MSC will give credit with education. So somebody who submits an application for a loan is trained on how to use credit money, borrowed money. however small it is, 100,000, you need to know how to use it because you have to use it profitably and return it so that another Ugandan somewhere can be able to use it. We give education on enterprise selection, and I'm going to emphasize it also in Emyooga. Enterprise selection, the mindset change training we are giving, and other capacity building programs, we are emphasizing enterprise selection. Because somebody starts a project or a business just because their neighbor started it. But the question is, do you have flair for that business? Do you have the skill? Do you have what it takes to run it? So we give education also on enterprise management, enterprise selection, management, and development. Then, of course, we train our clients on how to maintain and keep records, because that is a key aspect for business formalization, which is also becomes a barrier or a limiting factor for Ugandans to access credit. So we cover all those. Because we work in associations and cooperatives, we also train on governance and financial management systems. So these are strengthened enough for members that they serve to have confidence and trust in their organizations. Among other trainings, now we are emphasizing mindset change. But let me tell you something. What we have found out as MSC is that mindset change is not an easy subject to train somebody about. But if you can demonstrate to somebody, a Ugandan, that an activity, an enterprise can work, the mindset change is addressed. Just demonstrate that something works. Initially, when we started the Emyooga program, there was a lot of opposition. But after Ugandans have seen that one can save, one can run an enterprise, our minister has just given statistics. We were not there in that activity, but we were getting evidence. So after many Ugandans have seen, now they are participating in a Emyooga program. They call us all the time. How do we join? I'm in Moroto, I'm in Kotido, how do I join the program? Then when you ask, you probe further, why didn't you join initially? There was no mindset change because they had not seen something working. And so this is MSC, this is our mandate, and that is what we have done for the last 20 years. What is interesting with MSC's mandate is that we have created what I would call a rural financial services infrastructure, which is very strong, and that is through cooperatives. We have worked with cooperatives for the last 20 years, and we have empowered most of them to even represent us where we are not. They are able to recruit customers, they are able to refer customers, and conduct preliminary business development service support to the clients that we support. So that is briefly what I can say about MSC, and now you'll allow me to discuss the Emyooga program that was launched in 2019. So what is the presidential initiative on job and wealth creation about? In 2019, the president of this country toured the country, and the purpose was to understand what other government programs he had championed or he had initiated, whether they had had an impact on Ugandans. This is what the president found out. The president found out that true, there was a level of improvement, but most Ugandans were still in subsistence farming. They were still running subsistent activities. And what that meant is that they were not yet into the money economy. And so the numbers that were captured then were 68% of the households being in the subsistence economy. And the question to the president, and which he put to cabinet, was, how do we then transition the 68% households from the subsistence economy into the money economy or the market-oriented production? That was the question that he sought to address. And so a Emyooga program came on board, and it had four objectives. The first objective, of course, was to enable Ugandans access affordable capital to run businesses, to raise incomes and improve their livelihoods. That was the first objective. The second objective was to encourage the savings culture among Ugandans. Sorry. That was the second objective. The third objective was to sharpen the entrepreneurial skills of the people that had been in the subsistence economy. And the approach to doing this was through the cooperatives. Why cooperatives? Because we have economies of scale there to fetch, and the cooperatives is easier for government to work with people who are cooperating. And that's why such an event is important for us as the Microfinance Support Center. So what then happens? The Ministry of Finance designated MSC, the Microfinance Support Center, as the agency to implement the Emyooga program because of the experience and the know-how that the company had for the last 20 years in managing government and partner funds to support Ugandans. So we were selected and identified and designated to run the Emyooga program. So the Emyooga program, we were supposed to run it, and we have run it in 3 phases. The first phase was the phase of mobilization of communities, sensitize the communities about the program and also mobilize the communities. This we did not do it alone. I want to recognize the effort of our State Minister for Microfinance, Honorable Haruna Chayuneka Soro. He championed the mobilization and sensitization across the country. And we worked with the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, the district local governments, championed by the RDCs who are chairpersons of the task force and all members of the task force, the Microfinance Support Centers staff across the country, and every year, the Ministry of Finance, of course, was giving us oversight, and all other agencies that were involved. But what were we targeting in the Emyooga program? We had 18 specialized categories of the Emyooga program, which were comprised mainly of individuals that are doing similar enterprises. And that is the specialty about the Emyooga program. And these are the people who are considered by the president as critical, having been left outside the money economy. So the first category was the border. We had women entrepreneurs, carpenters, saloon operators, taxi operators, restaurant owners, welders, market vendors, youth leaders, persons with disabilities, produce dealers, mechanics, tailors, journalists, performing artists, veterans, fishermen, and elected leaders. The majority of the people have been asking us, but now, how do you say that an elected leader is Emyooga? Because you are saying they must be specialized enterprise categories. These are individuals and categories of people the president considered especially having been left outside the money economy. And what we are doing as MSC is to support them. I talked of enterprise selection, to be able to select enterprises they are comfortable with and then support them through their development. So that is what we were targeting in the sensitization program. These are the categories. And Emyooga program was supposed to be formed by Emyooga circles at constituency level, but these circles would be formed by associations at parish level, except for Wakiso, where we are forming associations at Emyooga circles at sub-county level, and then for Kampala, we are forming circles based on the dynamics that are in Kampala. For example, people who are in tailoring, we would form circles at their zones of tailoring because we did not want to destabilize the local economics. And because of the special political situation of Kampala, there was a different dynamic. But by and large, we are forming circles at constituency level, which were comprised of associations at parish level. So the other question we had to deal with under the Emyooga program was, why now? And the answers that we provided were easy and also with reference. If you look at the manifesto, the President's manifesto of 2016-2021, the President, the central theme of that manifesto, he wanted to take Uganda to modernity through job and inclusive growth. That was 2016-2021. Then we had Uganda's vision. Uganda's vision, which was looking at taking Uganda, enabling Uganda achieve prosperity. Then we had the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, 2017. The central pillars for that strategy were about 4 pillars, which were important for us. The first pillar was deepening and broadening platforms for savings. Remember, one of the objectives for the Emyooga program is inculcate a savings culture in Ugandans. We are talking of 2017, when the program of Emyooga had not started. The other pillar was the pillar of establishing credit infrastructure. I talked of MSC's objective of creating a rural financial services infrastructure. That was 20 years ago. Then the third pillar was empowering Ugandans, giving them the financial capacity to do business and improve their livelihoods. That was the other pillar. And then most importantly, reduce financial exclusion and increase access to affordable financial services. Those were the 4 pillars of our strategy, National Financial Inclusion Strategy. In other words, the MSC and the Emyooga program are deeply aligned to the government's national aspirations, plans, policies, and strategies. Then, of course, we had a commitment from government to develop a savings culture and diversifying options for savings that has been running through from the programs that I have mentioned to you up to, I could say, 1997 Poverty Alleviation Action Plan, which also emphasized platforms for savings, but also empowering Ugandans to be able to run enterprises and improve their own livelihoods. So this, and of course other programs that had started before, the Operation Wealth Creation, you know about it, 2013. Then we had the Youth Livelihood, 2013-14. We had the Women Entrepreneurship Fund, 2016. All these are the initiatives by government to eradicate or reduce poverty among Ugandans. So Emyooga was one of such programs, not political, but intended to supplement other initiatives before that government had come up with in order to fight this disease of poverty. So, it is not a political program, but it is a socio-economic development program. So, I want to take you through quickly, having said that, what have we done? By the way, it is less than 2 years since this program was started, because effectively, I think we lent out the first money in 2021, around March. That's when we gave out our first monies. So I want to just flash the performance of this program to date. And then after I have flashed the performance to date, I will then discuss what has been the real contribution to the informal sector in Uganda. Okay. Okay. So, like I had mentioned, excuse me, the screen. Like I had mentioned, we were implementing the program in 4 phases. The first phase was for mobilization of communities. And you can see from the screen that we have successfully carried out mobilization and sensitization of all leaders of community members, 7,023 core district leaders, MPs and Emyooga representatives were sensitized across the country. Thank you. As a result of such sensitization, we managed to mobilize 205 710 parish-based associations and 6,748 Emyooga Apex circles. And combined, all this consisted of over 4 million Ugandans mobilized. Out of the circles that were formed, let me go back a bit. Out of the circles that we formed, 6,748, we managed to register 6,635 Emyooga circles. And what was key under that program, the Microfinance Support Center provided the bylaws, 4 copies of bylaws to all of each of these Emyooga circles that were registered in order to expedite the process, but also support these Ugandans whom I have said had been outside the money economy. So somebody may say, why did you give the books? You are incapacitating them in the first place. MSC conducted training to all technical officers of government, local district governments. Those were 2,809. We gave them training of trainer courses to understand the program, first of all, its components, and how we could then support circles to get on their feet and run. And we managed to train over 1,300,000 members of associations and over 33 leaders of the Emyooga circles in that campaign. MSC has, in order to further that training, we established 54 client relationship advisors at all our branches. We call them zonal offices, so that this training can be furthered and it trickles down to the member of the association that we are targeting at parish level, and they are actively working with the district cooperative officers and commercial officers. We have also established community-based technical officers to support, to give immediate and quick response to support our associations and circles. Those are 313, and they are working very well. In terms of disbursements, as of March and April 2022, we have disbursed up to over 248 billion shillings to 6,648 Emyooga circles. All this money went straight to the Emyooga circle accounts maintained with their respective banks. What MSC did in order to further make this program cheaper for Ugandans was to form MOUs, to establish MOUs with banks, and we negotiated certain elements to keep the account maintenances of these Emyooga circles lower. And they are helping a lot. So when the program, how the program works and what makes it unique is that MSC gives the seed capital to the Emyooga circles, but we don't expect that money back. Rather, the Emyooga circles is supposed to revolve this money among the associations. So out of the 6,647 Emyooga circles that received these funds, 6,145 of them have already given, in return, have already on lent to their associations, about 194 billion shillings. What are the associations using the money for? They are adding to the capital that they have generated through savings, and they are expanding their enterprises, and they are working with our support and the support of other stakeholders. As of March 2022, we talked about savings which has been highlighted throughout all government programs. Initially, people were saying, how do you ask us to save when we don't have money to save? Like I said, it was just a mindset change, which was addressed by demonstration that this can work. And through the training and education, of course, that we gave, 63 billion shillings had been saved as of March 2022, in less than 2 years of implementation of this program. Surprisingly, this 63 billion, over 63 billion, has been saved by slightly over 1.5 million active members in 115,000 Emyooga associations. Just over 1,000, over 1.5 million people, active people, are the ones who have saved this money. We have got examples of successful Emyoogas. I will just highlight what the minister presented to you. 400 million, over 400 million shillings saved. So when we give this figure, you can see an accumulation of savings by all these Emyooga circles. It is even beyond as I speak, because that was March, April. This is close of the financial year. So now we have got the emerging issues. I will just go through them quickly. Of course, we had some Emyoogas that were oversubscribed, and some of them are like produce dealers who are oversubscribed. We had some emerging Emyoogas, those who felt that they could be part of the Emyooga program, but they were not included initially. Those have been coming to our offices. But in the wisdom of management and board, we have been able to integrate other Emyooga categories, like shoe shiners, like bouncers, like instrument players. All these have been absorbed into the MSC Emyooga program. So we want to thank the MSC senior management and board for allowing to include these programs. How much money in terms of seed capital was each Emyooga getting? Emyooga Circle. Each Emyooga Circle was receiving 30 million, except for the elected local leaders. There were supposed to be 18 Emyooga circles at each constituency. So you have 18. If we want to know how much money went into the constituency, you have 18 times 30 for the rest of the Emyooga circles that are not elected leaders. And then you have the other categories receiving 50 million, the elected leaders. That is how much money that has gone into our constituencies, our people, and they are doing very well. Then, of course, we had some little bit of extortion initially, but that because we had not intensified sensitization. That has been addressed, and the structures for monitoring have been established by MSC and partners, and we don't see that happening right now. Instead, if there is any pocket for extortion or any intention, the Emyoogas and our stakeholders on the ground and our technical community-based officers give us information immediately, and we are able to respond. So this program, the Emyooga program, like I said, is properly aligned to government policies, plans, and strategies. It is cognizant of the fact that lending to the poor is an important equity objective, and that is why we were working with people that are in associations and in groups. The very reason on this point I want to explain briefly is, if you are going to lend, our colleague from Stanbic Bank talked of collaterals, talked of products that are cast in stone. We recognize this under this program. Our Ugandans that are poor, that are rural, that want to work don't have collaterals, not in any form. If they have chattels, it is also very hard for them to give you those, because that is the only thing they have. But if they work in groups, the issue of physical collaterals is addressed, and that is why we lend on an equity basis, so that everyone can benefit within the means available. The program, of course, is on job and wealth creation and poverty reduction, and therefore it supports our informal sector to create secure livelihoods. Remember, my topic and my focus today is, has Emyooga been able to contribute to the informal sector, or to contribute to the formalization of the informal sector? And the program seeks to improve access to finance. That is key, by giving the seed capital and then making sure that the seed capital is helpful to the members. Let's see quickly about a few characteristics of this informal sector that we are talking about. Then I will conclude by telling you how we have been able to make a contribution to that sector. The sector that we know that is informal as MSC, because that is our playing field, is a sector that is characterized by unrecorded transactions. If we have worked with people in markets, you know. You go there, what they do is known in their head very well, but documentation is not there. When it comes to access to finance, not only from Microfinance Support Center, what do you need? You need to see some level of documentation. You need a track record of the sales. You need a track record of their borrowings if they have borrowed before. You need a track record of their purchases, what they have been able to purchase, so that you have their purchasing behavior, you have loan repayment behaviors, and you have performance of the business, which is not usually registered. The second thing is that there is a lot of skills gap within the informal sector. I talked of selection of business, but I also now can talk of the management of that business in the first place. Most of the businesses, as you know, because of that lack of financial modeling, many people are running businesses by what we call commonly keeping up appearances. You don't want to see your friend seeing you leaving that market store. So whether it is making profit or not, you have to be there. And that's what we are helping our Emyoogas to understand. The financial modeling. Are you really making money? The other challenge, of course, is access to capital, just because of the disorganization that affects the sector. The other challenge, which is also a barrier, is the misconceptions around formalization. Because businesses think that when I formalize, now I am more visible to the regulators and the tax man. So the incentive to formalize is usually limited, and we are working on that on the Emyoogas. Right. So these are the challenges that we have helped to address and reverse. Our Emyoogas, I can tell you confidently, that they can now access credit from other lenders, not MSC. And we have evidence from our colleague from Stanbic Bank. He told you that we have done a fantastic job and they can now be able to appraise and finance our Emyooga circles. Maybe that was their incentive to develop a circle-related product because they see now that it is traction on ground. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we have been able to contribute towards the informal sector. We are now working with UMRA to have all these circles licensed, but before we reach license level, we are now sensitizing them about the benefits of being licensed, what you need to do to prepare for that licensing. The trainings are going on across the country, and we are working with UMRA to make sure that we place all the relevant information they need in terms of requirements for them to get licensed. That is going on. We are now doing refresher trainings. Remember, these were young enterprise categories. So we did the TOTs, people went down to train, and now we are doing refresher trainings. We are doing a lot of mindset change trainings, but we are doing it by demonstration, and people are embracing the program. So my last slide is about what do we then do together so that the gains that we have made in Emyooga are not lost. This is our simple recommendations in terms of the way forward. We want to continue working with all stakeholders in this country in order to have a policy framework that supports the growth and formalization of our Emyoogas. The policy is in draft form. I'm glad I was part of that team that was working on the policy, and we are sure that once it is in place, it will be a harmonized ground for our Emyoogas to continue growing and others to join the program. We want to continue with the awareness creation programs and sensitization and the monitoring. We had cases of people who borrowed money, but returning it was a problem because they did not think that once you receive government money, you are supposed to pay it back. So a lot of monitoring, a lot of hand-holding is being done to tell them that once you don't pay, your neighbor in Karamoja is not going to receive the money and benefit from government program. We are praying that more funds, we are glad, that more funds have been allocated to the Emyooga program. As we speak, we are giving 20 million additional to the successful Emyoogas. I think tomorrow we are going to be having some Emyoogas with us who have done very well, and we have been appraising them. They are now going to benefit from the additional 20 million. Because we are basing that on the level of savings they have, on the strength of leadership and management and governance systems they have had so far. We want to scale up the sensitization of the communities, that is the informal sector, on the benefits for formalization. Don't fear taxation, don't fear regulation, because after all, this is the sector. UMRA is there, you have to be licensed. The question is, can we make you ready? The readiness for being licensed and regulated is what we are working on. We are working with our stakeholders like URA. We want to thank URA. We have been implementing the sensitization on taxes with them. URSB is helping us to do the registration very fast. And indeed, we are saying that if the informal businesses generate employment opportunities, then it is important for us to develop policies that will strengthen them. As of now, as I conclude, MSC has created close to 1 million jobs, effective jobs, that you can go and count that this person is in gainful employment. With those few words, thank you very much.
Please give him another round of applause. Thanks so much, James, for that wonderful presentation. I would like to once again thank the sponsors of this live coverage, Microfinance Support Center and Stanbic Bank. I also wish to take this opportunity to thank our hosts tomorrow, Mahame Financial Services, Cooperative Society, and Ankoli Coffee Producers. Of course, we thank NTV for the live coverage. Without wasting time, let me now call upon Professor Ephraim Kamuntu. To some of you who were earlier on doubting the effectiveness of the parish development model, he's going to demystify it for you, and also wish to inform you that actually the circle that is hosting tomorrow, Mohammed, started as a PDM circle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have some help with some? Sorry, there's something here. I hope I'm far enough and I can remove my mask. Let me begin by recognizing the important people here. We have the minister in charge of trade, industry, and cooperatives, a friend, a colleague, and he has a name, Ngobi. For some of you who have historical perspective of cooperatives, you will recall Matthias Ngobi, who, before independence and after independence, they were the pillars of cooperative movement. We still remember them. Ngobi, you bear his name. I recognize you, sir. We should also have development partners. I don't know whether Stambik, you are a development partner or you are, how do I place Stambik? Is a development partner, is it? So development partners and members of cooperative fraternity, we have great people here. General Sam, we have been together in this wealth creation work for so long. So every time I see you, I now understand you are now chairman of Wazalendo Cooperative. We started it as well. This is wonderful. And I want to thank the chairman of Uganda Cooperative Alliance and the presenter. You did an excellent job, I must say. What I'm going to say will be complementary to what he has said. So my first word is congratulate you on the day of cooperative. International Cooperative Day is a very important day for cooperators. And we are here principally, partly and largely because of that day, which we commemorate every 2nd of July. Congratulations. So I want to thank you most sincerely for the kind invitation that you extended to me to come and give a keynote address on the occasion of commemorating Cooperative Day. This is a great opportunity for me to pay back. I must say to pay back to cooperatives, because you will allow me to reminisce a little bit. I was born in a cooperative family. This is true. And if I was to share with you, 1954, this is true, Mr. Minister, so take it, bear with me. I must narrate on this day. 1954, there was a coffee boom as a result of Korean War. Oh yes, this is historical. And my father, a peasant, was selling his coffee and the price was so good. He constructed a house and roofed it with corrugated iron sheets. You just simply don't know what that meant in the village. 1954, most of you were not even born. And as a young boy, corrugated iron sheets, when it rains, it makes noise, and the water is running on the veranda. And as I was getting this banana stem, trying to harvest the rain from the roof, it was fantastic. That's why I'm telling you. It was really fantastic. Cooperatives, that's cooperatives. And later on, I carried the research as an undergraduate student on the role of Anyankore Kweteran in economic development of this region. Frankly speaking, cooperatives, I was working with cooperative manager the late Kes Kavachenga. He's an institution in this place. Oh yes, he's an institution. And we went together, Bonjera, Rwampara, Isinjiro, all over the place. And coffee. Panyankore Kwetara now had a headquarters in Nyamitanga right here. And the coffee processing in Kakova. Then they had a consumer shop just opposite the Mbarara, I think it is now electricity place. Cooperative. Banyankore would send a fleet of lorries full of coffee to Bugorovi. And they would collect coffee from my own parish. I have to emphasize parish because we had a parish cooperative store in my parish. And the coffee would be collected from my cooperative parish store all the way to Kakova, all the way to Bugorovi, to Mombasa and London Stock Exchange, and my father never knew what all that meant. He was just simply sitting in his village and the money would find him there. Fantastic. So if I say, allow me to reminisce, I am what I am partly because of the role of cooperatives in economic development of our country. I'm therefore grateful, really honored, and very pleased to be here and to join the cooperators in celebrating and increasing. We do it with a passion, to increase awareness about the importance of cooperative on the Cooperative Day is very important. Highlight the complementary roles and objectives of the cooperative movement with the government's strategy of parish development model in transforming Uganda to become a modern state. This is a very important agenda, and cooperatives, you should really stand up and embrace it. I want, again, to share with you, we all know, I'm really preaching to the converted, cooperatives are people-centered enterprises, aren't they? And you have, as a cooperator, strong role to play in empowering communities for inclusive, sustainable economic growth and development. I'm now talking as a professional by nature of our economy, where you have smallholder farms scattered across the country. I can tell you, to achieve scale in economic sense of this smallholder scattered across the country, to achieve scale and be competitive, there is no any other channel except through cooperatives. This is true. This is almost like basic. Uganda cannot compete in an international market unless Uganda organizes its smallholder who form the majority of its population into an economic vehicle that can achieve scale and compete. And that channel is cooperative. Today, more than ever before, cooperatives are called upon to reinforce government efforts to transform our country from being peasant and being poor to being a modern and prosperous country. We owe it to ourselves. I have had a debate with some here. Uganda is exceptionally endowed. Trust me, because I have the figures. Uganda is a country, we say it is gifted by nature. And Churchill, some you will quote Churchill in his journey to Africa way back in 1907. He was visiting, Churchill was the British Prime Minister, he was visiting what they call British possessions, and he reached Uganda, and Uganda was amazing. According to him, Everything was fantastic. He has never seen it. Freshwater lakes, nowhere in the world. The climate, imagine, we can be here hardly. Then the people, amazing. Uganda are great people. They are really amazing people. And he would be moving, and school children would be saying, Muzungu, Muzungu, and they are laughing. And Churchill got fascinated, and this tag we have had of Uganda being the parrot of Africa, that was Churchill after being fascinated by this country, and he called it the parrot of Africa. Today, it is the parrot of Africa. So, the question which my brother and I have been asking, how can you explain a country so endowed naturally and yet so poor? This is a paradox. This is really a paradox. How can you be so endowed? I can tell you, whether it is gold, this country has it. My friends, this oil and gas which we are excited about, it has been there since the beginning of time. Whether it is iron, or manganese, or rare metal, anything, mention it, it is in Uganda, and yet Uganda is still classified as in the 49, just put there 49, who is controlling the who is controlling the, just put, yes, right there. Uganda is still listed. This is the paradox we must. Uganda is still listed as one of the 46 groups of countries defined by United Nations as low income, third world, poor countries. The third world is like third grade. Yes, it's third grade. Third world is third grade. So a country so endowed and yet so poor, you should really get angry. My purpose, if you can't get angry, and I have it also, if you cannot get angry, if you cannot feel that satisfied, that surely it can't be, and you reject it, the moment you reject that, then you must find a solution to it. In fact, I can tell you, every development starts with dissatisfaction. If you are not satisfied with the state of things, you remain stagnant. The economists would say there is stagnant equilibrium. You are just there. You are not moving. So you must be satisfied. We cannot accept to be third world anymore. So Uganda's economy today stands at an important turning point in our economic history. It is perhaps most important since 1986, when NRM assumed leadership of this country. With its 10-point program. And some would bear me out because we have this historical sharing that we know it. 10-point program. And the 10-point program is indeed the mission of NRM has been to transform. The mission of NRM from the beginning to today has been to transform Uganda from being a poor peasant society into a modern industrial, united and prosperous state. That's really what we want to become. And indeed, I can say this, and indeed, since 1986, NRM has played a lead role in transforming Uganda from being a poor and peasant. And since that time, Uganda, under the leadership of NRM and President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has made tremendous progress. I can share with you, this is a fact. You see, we are in a political environment, but there are things which you can say that whether you like it or not, these are facts. And by the way, my intention today is by end of this presentation, there should be no conceptual doubt or ambiguity about what the parish development model is intended to achieve, there should be no doubting, and what it means to be a middle-income country. Again, about my own background, if you don't have numbers, then you don't know it. I should give you numbers so that by numbers, either we agree or disagree, but there could be no doubting about what that means. So I want, by the end of this meeting, for you to know what it means for a country to be a middle-income country, and you either achieve that goal or you don't. But there would be no doubting about what that goal is all about. I will also compliment what you have done, what I consider to be success factors if we are ever to get there. So let me share with you so that there is no doubting, because you hear it all the time. What has the NRM done? Number one, NRM, one of the key achievements it has done, sustainable peace, security, and stability, which is the basis. This one is the basis of economic growth and development. This has been done. Whether you like it or you don't like it, this is the truth. May I also add, we have held elections every 5 years since 1996. And the country has been spared the turbulence and violence of changing government through the bullet instead of doing it through the ballot. If I can be personal, I was appointed by Professor Lule as Deputy Minister of Planning. And I had been there only for 2 days. They threw him out and they threw me out. And they were looking for me. That's really what it means, changing governments by violence. And that's what you should appreciate, that for these years, that one has been, we have been spared. And by the way, every time you change government violently, take it from me, there will be Ugandans running as refugees. All the time. I can recall Professor Bisase was a fantastic doctor, but he was a minister of Lule. I don't think he has ever come back. So was our Minister of Finance, and so on, and so on. Godfrey Binaisa, hardly 1 year, he's out, and a set of his ministers are also out. Paulo Mwanga is out, a set of them are also out. About the second time he's out, a set of people are out. Rutra, he's out violent. All these are violent changes. So, friends, you need to have experience to know that political stability, peace, and security is the anchor for everything that we are going to do. Can also add, the size of the economy has significantly expanded. The guy addressing you has been in it. We have moved from mere billions of shillings, we are now in trillions. Trillions, you can't count them, there are so many. And the economy has been growing on the average about 6 to 7%. Again, some of you who are familiar with the economic growth of countries, for a country to grow at 6% is a high figure. Most countries, maybe because of where they are coming from, they grow about 2%, 3%, but Uganda has maintained an average of 6 until COVID. That is an achievement under the leadership of NRM, under the leadership of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. The total exports of goods and services have also increased. Again, I know it. Access to education and health services, you agree, has significantly increased. I mean, I can give you numbers. 1997, when UPE was introduced, I'm an educator. The population of students going to school at that time was 2.5 million in primary schools. When UPE was introduced, the number jumped from 2.5 to 7.6. Surely you don't need to be a rocket mathematician to know that between 2.5 and 7.6, in between, there are about 5 million children who are not going to school. Yes. And those would never see the inside of any school if this UPE was not introduced. Again, educators, if you are an educator, you have two problems in education. There is a problem of access to access education, then there is a problem of quality of education.